Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, I hope that you're having a fantastic day. So today on the program, we have computer and technology news. We have a number of stories that we're going to cover, and not least of all is, well, at CES, we saw our first looks at what a Sony car would look like, and looks like it's going to be a thing for a while yet, because we have some big news about a new partnership between Sony and Honda and how they're going to make new electric vehicles to take aim at Tesla. So everyone, we have stories like that. We have, of course, stories like an update to the Nvidia hacking that happened a week or two ago. I think it was about a week ago. And then, of course, there's some changes to the National Highway Safety Administration, how they rate cars, and a little bit of Russia update, a little bit of Russia and Facebook update. Don't know who wins more in that one. But everyone, let's go ahead and just say computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, past shows, future shows, everything you need to know. And of course, you can find podcasts, you can find the video, you can find, of course, you can join us during our live stream, twitch.tv/Computer America as well. If you'd like to join us during the recording of these, ask us questions, follow along, and of course, bring up topics of your own. We certainly love the back and forth that happens. Now, with that being said, find us on social media, all that good stuff. Let's go ahead and get started with computer and technology news. So our first one that we're going to do is, well, this one. Here we go. Japan, and in Japan, Sony and Honda are starting a new company to make electric vehicles. That's pretty big news. Let's face it. Sony is a massive hardware company, but more so for their phones, for their televisions, for audio equipment, for gaming consoles, of course. They do so much, but cars was never really one of them. They have the know-how, they have the technical capability, so why the heck not? They say that two of Japan's biggest names in business are teaming up, with Sony and Honda announcing Friday that they plan to start a joint venture to make and sell electric vehicles. The company will be established later this year, and delivery will begin in 2025. Very ambitious that they're looking at less than a 3-year turnaround. So we'll see how that goes. Details of the agreement are still being worked out and will be subject to regulatory approval, but I can't imagine that with how contested the electric vehicle market is, I can't imagine this wouldn't be allowed to go through because there's plenty of competition. They said that the new company is expected to plan, design, develop, and sell electric vehicles, but not own and operate manufacturing facilities, they added. Honda will handle the production at one of its facilities. There you go. So whatever the new, Sony car division, like whatever the new company is, that will undoubtedly operate under both Sony and Honda, they will, simply handle things like the marketing, the software, the design, stuff like that. So, this is really cool news. Sony will be tasked with creating a platform that will provide mobility services without elaborating further. And that would be, I would guess, like things like ride sharing and so on and so forth. The Japanese conglomerate is best known for its electronic gadgets and entertainment products. You could imagine that if Sony builds a car, there's going to be as much interoperability with a lot of their other services as could possibly be. Let's face it, if these electric cars end up being self-driving cars, which, they're supposed to be here any year now, that infotainment system, a lot of companies are looking at that center console, looking at that giant tablet that Tesla has, looking at the giant, like all the real estate, all the screen real estate that people are going to have access to, and they're not going to be distracted by driving because, hopefully they won't be driving. They're going to want to spend time and, hey, maybe even nudge, nudge, wink, wink, spend money while they are sitting there in their car, held captive, waiting to go to their destination. So you can imagine how Honda, with the know-how and, of course, the ability to provide the cars, would love a team-up with what might be one of the best content platforms out there, the PlayStation. That's a huge win for Honda. So this is going to be, pretty big. So they said that with our imaging and sensing, cloud and 5G and entertainment technologies combined with our content mastery, we believe Sony is well positioned to, as a creative entertainment company, to redefine mobility. There you go. So I think that's fairly big news. Obviously, this won't come to fruition until 2025, but it does kind of show that this is the change car companies are seeing. Before it was just everyone needs a car, you need to put an AM FM radio, and that needs to be it. Maybe good safety rating if you're lucky. That's it. Tech companies in particular, with all their money, all their liquid cash, they are looking to turn the car into the next living space. Just like your kitchen, just like your living room, just like your bedroom. It is going to be considered a living space where you spend time, spend money, and want to be entertained in that space. And everyone is just lining up as best they can to be the one to provide you that content. So I would not be surprised if, along these same lines, an entertainment platform like Sony mixing with a car company like Honda, I would not be surprised if you see things like Microsoft and Tesla. If you saw things like, obviously, Apple would be a great fit with, maybe Ford or something like that. These traditional tech companies that make gadgets and, services and Apple Music and, YouTube and stuff, and Google and YouTube and stuff like that, if they started to make high-profile, big partnerships with other car manufacturers, just like this. This is going to be the trend. Like, this is just the beginning of what we're seeing here. So there you go. Story number one. Story number two. Let's go ahead and, we'll start with, okay, so this is a rather long article. We'll include it in the show notes. We'll give you the kind of cliff notes, the Reader's Digest, but this was some great reporting by Engadget, and let's see, the exact person that did all this was Carissa Bell. Highly recommend you go read the whole thing. It's very eye-opening, but it has to do with Facebook gaming. And obviously Facebook, the platform, it's massive. There are tons and tons of monthly users, almost 3 billion monthly users. They have an incredible amount of people that sign on to their service and look for things to do. Either connect with friends, consume content, read news, doesn't matter. Now here's the thing. One of the ventures was Facebook gaming. And if you haven't heard about that, well, it was the second largest gaming platform. It overtook YouTube not too long ago. The place where kind of gaming videos kind of started. So everyone's like, wow, that's really impressive. Watch time must be great. You must have a tremendous community there. Everyone loves it. This reporter went through and analyzed a number of videos, like the top 10 videos, and found that, for example, 9 out of 10 videos showed a blurry, horribly ripped version of either Cooking Up a Storm, which was like an Indian, I think, television show, or a poorly ripped off version of the latest Terminator movie, like 10 or 12 minutes of a clip, followed by 10 or 12 minutes of a person streaming, usually like Euro Truck Simulator or American Truck Simulator, for 10 to 12 minutes. And they'd be completely mislabeled or labeled horribly. And by and large, some of them had over 100 million clicks. Some of them had, 70, 80, 90 million clicks and impressions on these videos that were just stolen and pirated content, and it looked horrible as well, and clearly violated Facebook's own terms of service. But then they're left up, and that is what's most popular, and that's really concerning because and again, this article goes really into detail, but just to kind of give you the short version of it is, it's hard to find really legitimate people who are actually making gaming content, because that isn't really what is being consumed on Facebook gaming. It seems like a way for people from India, people from China, people from all over the world to fake that they're streaming and disguise versions of a TV show, disguise versions of a movie, just short clips of it, and then be able to easily disseminate it to a very large audience that are looking to pirate or steal that, those movie clips or television clips. And it's happening at such an alarming rate. And then of course, when the author went into some of these spaces, put up money, subscribed to them for $2 a month, whatever it was, went into their chat rooms and their Facebook pages and groups, there were like 9 people, and these are people with 120 million clicks, and they, on like an average Tuesday, 9 people, including the researcher themselves. Doesn't really follow why that would be such a massive disconnect. And so the fallout from all of this is, who is the audience? What are they using for? Why the heck are these weird clips being made in the first place? And then also, often being touted as the second largest gaming platform after Twitch over Google. What are the actual numbers? What is the actual data? Because by and large, man, these numbers are not real. They're not a good look for anyone in the company or anything like that. And then of course the last question is, who at Facebook is even paying attention to this crap? How do you get all these tens of millions, hundreds of millions of clicks and views, and no one from the company themselves even bothered to look and see, the first 12 minutes of that is from a movie that we don't own the rights to, but people are pirating anyways. And then after that, it's some dude sitting silently, not talking at all over a video game clip. Really makes you wonder, what is Facebook up to? What are they doing? Do they even care? Is it all about clicks and views and that's it? There's no need for, any kind of moderation. Overall, it's a bad look. So if you want to find out more, this thing really opened up my eyes, especially because, again, Facebook gaming is often cited as, one of the main 3. Like, Mixer shut down over a lot less than this, and Facebook gaming is still going strong. But how strong is it really, and how much is it just completely fake? So there you go. It's very, very strange times over there. So good luck to everyone over on Facebook gaming. Okay, so that was story number 2. Story number 3. How about this? How about an update? And this is one of the worst things I've heard happen in quite a while. It's really okay. This is really it's bad. Cybercriminals who breach Nvidia issue of so cybercriminals who breached Nvidia issue one of the most unusual demands ever, and really the demand is still there. And the answer is they want Nvidia to get rid of the light hash rate. For those who don't know, they introduced LHR in February 2021 on the 3060, 3080, 3070, 3060 Ti cards, and it limits the effectiveness of mining Ethereum using these cards. The goal was to say, sure, you can buy the cards. They're perfectly good for gaming. They do everything else that graphics cards are supposed to do. But if you try to mine crypto with it, which is often seen as a huge inconvenience to people trying to buy these cards, because every card is purchased by a crypto miner, and then put to work, mining cryptocurrency and making money instead of being in someone's gaming PC and enjoying it. They installed LHR on all of their consumer-grade graphics cards and said, we choose the gaming community over the crypto community. Well, I'm sure that ever since then, hackers, and even before then, undoubtedly, hackers have been trying to get into Nvidia. They downloaded a massive trove of data, over a terabyte, including all of the employees' names, all of their tons of hashed information. But by and large, they also include, the entire silicon chip file, so that everyone not only knows your driver's secrets, but also your most closely guarded trade secrets for graphics and computer chipsets too. So there's some obvious points here. The most obvious one is that, first of all, if they meet the demand, which is, again, remove the LHR, and they also want to make all the future drivers for their graphics cards open source, remove the LHR and make everything open source so they can edit their own drivers and make changes themselves, or don't, and they will release every single detail about their graphics cards. Only a select handful of people will be able to use that information. Only a certain number of people within the industry are even competing with Nvidia. You have TSMC, of course. You have AMD, of course. You have Apple to a certain extent. Intel's looking to get into graphics cards. But by and large, a lot of those companies I just mentioned would never touch information that comes from this kind of source. They're not, at least not publicly, they're not going to be like, let's scan through this and steal all of NVIDIA's secrets. Mwahahaha. No, that's not going to work that way at all. Who this really benefits are either hackers who are going to look for vulnerabilities, maybe access to systems, or they're going to look for ways to either destroy or boost graphics cards in general. It's going to help the people who do bad, or it's going to help people who are going to manufacture these in places like China and, maybe give them a head start into competing, making cheap knockoffs from NVIDIA. By and large, NVIDIA doesn't want this to happen, but in my mind, there's really no reason for NVIDIA to, meet these demands. Like, there's no guarantee that they won't release the data. Even if they did meet the demands, they're not going to delete the data. That would be the stupidest thing that these hackers would ever do. You don't get these files and then just not delete, you don't get these files and then just delete them. So yeah, they're not going to delete them. So what reason does NVIDIA have to do all this work for, just to try to appease some random people? It's not going to happen. They're not going to, they're not going to meet these demands. So the statement didn't say if the company has mandated password changes for employees. They have notifications on have been pwned if you're an employee, and a check of email addresses of 4 NVIDIA employees showed all of them were included in the last week file dump. So yep, it's legitimate. NVIDIA has a big crisis on its hands. This could have implications down the line, but by and large, NVIDIA is not going to talk, NVIDIA is not even going to discuss with them any kind of way to resolve this to the hackers' satisfaction. So there you go. Story number 3 is, all about NVIDIA and how they're not going to negotiate with cyber terrorists. Let's face it, that's what they are. Now, real quick, another update, because I didn't really cover this story, but a couple of days ago, The Verge reported this, but Samsung was throttling some of its apps on phones so that it could get better battery performance from its devices. Now, for those who don't recall, Apple did the exact same thing. It led to Supreme Court cases. It led to lawsuits in the hundreds of millions. It led to a lot of fallout. It was really a big deal when Apple did this. Like, it even got the highest honor any scandal could do. It got the term Applegate. It was crazy. But yeah, so Apple dealt with this in their own way. And instead of Samsung saying, wow, let's never do anything like that, that really pissed people off. No, actually, they turned around and Samsung started to throttle apps to preserve battery life without telling people. Well, the update here is that enough of you were outraged, enough of you reached out to the company that, they have introduced GOS, Game Optimizing Service. And this is a new app that will be coming to the Samsung operating system that lets you determine. It will have restrictions for benchmarks like 3D Mark and Geekbench, stuff like that. But no, it will also limit the amount of processing power that a video game can have on your phone. GOS is not known to be present on the Galaxy S22 series. While the exact range of phones with GOS isn't clear, the software is known to exist on older phones like the S21 lineup and the S20 FE. So there you go. So it's difficult for phone vendors to completely avoid throttling. Chips like the S22 Snapdragon 8 can run hot, and Samsung even introduced vapor chamber cooling to the S22 to manage the heat. As Apple learned years ago, though, at least some users want more control and transparency for throttling. They're willing to sacrifice battery life and heat to see devices reach their full potential. So they're letting more people know, they're being more transparent about it, which is all well and good, but when you secretly throttle 10,000 apps behind people's back, they get a little ticked. And I have no idea why Samsung would even, try to pull the trickery that Apple did years and years ago. So there you go. Story number 4. Perfect. Story number 5. This might be the second or first biggest story of the day. And this has to do with Russia says it will block Facebook. There you go. Here we go. Saying that, and this, by the way, from Motherboard and a lot of other places have picked this up. But like I said at the beginning of the show, I don't know who wins more from this. Obviously, Facebook doesn't need to deal with a crappy country like Russia. And then on top of that, Russia doesn't need to deal with a crappy company like Facebook. So, who knows? Russian authorities have announced that they intend to block access to Facebook inside Russia. And that is according to the official Russian government. On March 4th, a decision was made to block access to Facebook in the Russian Federation. The translated version of the announcement reads, Russia has been increasingly limiting access to social media and shutting down what remained of its independent press since the invasion of Ukraine last week. The announcement pointed to what was described as discrimination against Russian media by Facebook. It mentioned that Facebook has restricted access to accounts belonging to Russia Today, or RT, Sputnik, and a handful of other Russian sources. The announcement claims that they have recorded 26 cases of such discrimination since 2020. So even well before this whole Ukraine thing, Russia's claiming this has been an ongoing problem. So for those who don't know what happened, Twitter, Facebook, Microsoft, and many, many other social media companies all started to flag content and people and accounts that had connections to either the Russian government, RT, Sputnik, which of course they themselves are state-run news agencies, so they are essentially propaganda mouthpieces. They just simply labeled them. This is from Russian sources. So, take it with a grain of salt. And that seemed to be, I guess effective enough for Russia to say, okay, this isn't worth any more. We'll take the quote-unquote high road and just block Facebook altogether if we're not going to be able to get our message out as effectively as we otherwise would have. Ironically, the announcement on the official website includes a button that allows users to share it directly on Facebook, which is like a standard operating procedure. I'm sure that they just need to change the web page, but it is ironic that, yeah. So soon, millions of ordinary Russians will find themselves cut off from reliable information, deprived of their everyday ways of connecting with family and friends, and silenced from speaking out. We will continue to do everything we can to restore our service so they remain available to people as safely and securely express themselves and organize for action. That's what they tweeted from Facebook. And then, by the way, the fact that Nick Clegg, the president of Global Affairs, this entire time has been tweeting his responses that Facebook is taking, honestly, it feels really genuine. That they feel that the immediate conversation that Twitter kind of promotes is just a better way to announce things for Facebook. Instead of just being like, it has to be from Facebook, facebook.com. No, the fact that they're willing to use Twitter to say these things feels very human. And I have liked that. I really have. So, so earlier this month, Russia partially blocked Facebook for restricting some Russian sources of information. But this whole Russia-Facebook thing not going anywhere. Russia in general is having, is finding itself on the defensive from a lot of different companies. Like, I'm sure that this hostile takeover of Ukraine has been very, very alarming. I guess they were hoping that this would be over a lot sooner. But yeah, the world is watching, and probably for the best. Speaking of the world watching, I think everyone should really pay attention to our last story. Okay, potentially our last story. Google. Check this out. Apple teams up with Google, Mozilla, Microsoft, those three companies to improve browser interoperability, which, if you're a web developer, oh my God, this might be the best day ever for you, because one of the big jobs is to make sure that your website or your application runs the same on every one of those as smoothly as possible. And if they don't, then hey, that's hours out of your life that you have to deal with. Well, check this one out. It has to do with Apple has partnered with the companies mentioned before, Google, Mozilla, and Microsoft, on a new endeavor to improve the interoperability of user experience of their web browsers. So, of course, you have Safari, Edge, Chrome, and Firefox, all working together to improve the experience of developing for the web in 15 key areas. There you go. Also, with that, you also have software consultant groups, Bocoup and Igalia are also on board. So the 15 areas, which include cascade layers, color spaces, and CSS color functions, new viewport units, scrolling, and more, the project will focus on the 4 browsers involved. There you go. The end goal is to make web applications look and function similarly on different web browsers, which isn't the case currently. The goals are also all design focused, meaning the browsers have an incentive to participate alongside their rivals. So essentially, the things that really differentiate a web browser is, still fundamentally there. You have, speed, resource management, you have tab functionality, all that kind of thing. But when it comes to colors looking the same, scrolling working appropriately, spacing, pages with their cascading style sheets, all displaying the same. The really annoying, tedious stuff that should just work, that's the part that they're going to work on. So all these technologies are important to Apple and to everyone working on WebKit. We care deeply about the health of the web and interoperable implementation of web standards. We welcome collaboration, and they want to make the web as interoperable as possible. So there you go. I think that's just a great way to, kind of help everyone out there, especially, again, if you're a web developer. This will definitely help a lot of people out there. So everyone, it just may mean that just because someone is accessing something from Safari or Chrome or Mozilla doesn't mean that they see something different than you. We're all the same in the end. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning into the program. That's it for this podcast, and we hope that you enjoyed that for headlines and news and all that kind of thing. Everyone, check out computeramerica.com for more if you want to find out social media, all the good stuff, twitch.tv. Everyone, have a good one. Bye-bye.